everyone, welcome to my corner of the world. Today I have a fun fold to share with you, and it has it's like I think basically you can call it a double flap card, but it's got a little catch to hold the front piece down, and then when you open it up we've got some nice gold embossing, and then in here as we can save our message. And I decided that I was going to do heat embossing with this card because I thought it would complement this beautiful paper. And this paper is called All About Autumn, and it comes in 6x6, and you can see that it's got like photographic images on one side, and then on the other it's got lovely designs. It's kind of like a distressed finish on there, but you can see gorgeous designs, and that's what I decided to feature on this card. Now I made this card, I designed this card for a challenge to use products from the new mini, which was released on September the 6th. And so I'll point out whenever I go to use a new product. So here's our card, and I'm going to start. I've got just a regular card base, which is 8.5 by 5.5. And it's scored at 4 1/4 here. So I'm just gonna fold that in half, ready to go like that. I've then got 2 pieces of vanilla. All right, so both of these are 4 by 5.5. You can see I've already heat embossed this one. That's my piece I'm going to pop inside. And then this one, I am going to use an embossing folder. And I've heard sometimes this is called dry embossing. So that's what we're going to do with this piece of card. So I've got my cut and emboss machine. And for this one, I'm going to use the number 1 block, the plate, which is our base plate here. And then I'm going to be using one of the new embossing folders, and this is called Distressed Tile. And I thought that since the paper has got like a distressed look, that this would just be a perfect embossing folder to use. So this is one of the thicker folders, and so I am going to be using, I think I've put my embossing on my piece of card. That wasn't too smart. So I'm going to just emboss this, and I'm going to put it hinge first into my machine, and then I've got plate number 4 on the top. You can see I put a sign that says embossing folders only, so that I don't get them mixed up. So we're just going to gently crank that through, and we'll have just the most beautiful finish. Pop that down, and there. So I think you'll agree that that is really beautiful. And you can see the distressed bits, because those are the bits that are sort of a bit plain. That's not because it didn't work. That is deliberately like that. So that is going to go on the outside of my card here. Now to make my flap, I've got another piece of cardstock, and this is 4 1/4 this way and 3 1/4 that way, and I've scored it at 3 1/4, so it ends up with a square. And to give it some texture, I'm going to emboss it like that. So I'm just going to just do this one piece. I've done all my other embossing ahead of time, but I just wanted to remind you of the technique. So I'm going to use my embossing buddy here just to sort of take away any fingerprints, and then just using some of our Versamark. This is a clear glue, ink, sorry, that is very sticky, and it will allow my embossing powder to stick really well. So I've got some gold here. I'm just going to sprinkle it on, and you may have done heat embossing before, and if you have, you'll forgive me while I sort of do this, but it is such a lovely effect. I'm just getting some of the excess off there, and I think it's for one sometimes folks overlook. So I've got my heat gun. It'll be a bit noisy for a moment. Get some of that off of there. And then this is where the magic happens. When I show people this technique for the first time ever, they just are full of wonder. Can you see it's gone from a really dull colour there to lovely and bright, and it's just so easy to do. There, done. Fantastic. Now, my stamp set that I'm using is another new product in the mini, which is called Translucent Florals, and I've used this little one I've just shown you there, and I've also used this one, and that I used here to create my little catch, and again I've heat embossed it. And then I have got this one where I've used the happy birthday and this sort of little starburst. I think it's meant to be stamens, but I thought it made quite a good decorative feature there. And the other thing that I did ahead of time was to stamp and heat emboss some decorative pieces here, and I use the coordinating translucent florals dies for this, and they make a pretty front piece. And my circles were cut with another new product, which are these gorgeous deckled circle dies. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to use that big one for, but I'm sure I'll find a good project for that. And basically I use the smallest one and the next one up for this project. So far I'm doing quite well for new products. Now I'm going to put my fold in, and I'm going to put a good crease in it with my bone folder. Now I'm going to use my double-sided tape for this because I want to make sure it stays in place, and I'm going to be putting it on basically the outside. So if you think that's going to be the inside, this is going to be the outside of the card when I've got my decorative pieces attached. Right, so there's that. And I like to just use my bone folder to press that adhesive down firmly. I think it helps activate the adhesive when you do that. And so now I'm going to just lift some of this away, and I'm going to turn it like this outward. Now I'm going to get my card base. So my card base is here, and I am going to attach this to the inside, and I'm going to eyeball it, but roughly to the center. And you want to make sure, to get the best result, that your crease here, your fold here, lines up nicely with your cut edge here. And by just turning my tape down a little bit, I can now maneuver my piece of card, and on the piece that's I've exposed the adhesive, I can squeeze, and then I can just gently pull this away like that, and then this piece I can gently pull away, and then just use my bone folder to put a really good firm crease, make sure that's really stuck down firmly. I like to use liquid adhesive, but you can always use whatever works for you, whatever you're most comfortable with. I just find that with liquid it gives me a little bit of working time to get everything lined up. So you can see that this piece has actually covered the join that we've got underneath. Now this is where we may need to do a little bit of adjustment on our card base. Can you see when I close it, it's got a bit of a bow in that front piece? So what that needs is for me to trim just the tiniest, weeniest sliver off of my card front. And all I'm going to do is just take it so that it's just a tiny fraction over the cutting groove, and let me show you how much I've taken off. Look, tiny weeny piece, and I'm hoping that that should be enough that when I close it I don't get the bow anymore. Right. Yeah, so that is nicely seated. It doesn't show very much, the fact that that's marginally smaller than the back of the card, but it makes it sit nicely, and I think that's the main thing. It sits nicely, so when it goes into the envelope it doesn't get sort of crumpled. So I'm going to go ahead and put some adhesive on my embossed piece. Now I've given you a bunch of measurements, which I don't want you to necessarily spend your time scribbling down, but what I'll do is I will put a link beneath this video down here, which will take you to my blog, and it'll take you to the exact post for this card, and the information will be there for you. Okay, so I've got this lovely piece of foiled paper, and it's actually vanilla, which is why I chose to use the very vanilla on my card itself. And it looks like it's gold to me, which is why I use the gold embossing powder, but I think it would work if you were to use copper as well. Right, so now we've got our final little decorative pieces here. Now I'm going to use mini dimensionals for this particular project, and I'm just going to put two side by side here, and I'm putting them where so that they're kind of at the end of my flap. And then I'm just going to pop this piece down just so that it catches the flap. And by putting the dimensionals down first, it means that you're not sort of guessing as to where to actually put it on this piece. It just makes it a little bit simpler. All right, so now I've got my larger piece, my other circle. This has got my happy birthday on. And just remove and I'm just going to center this up like that. And then I've got these pretty pieces. So I'm going to add a little liquid here, and I'm going to pop it underneath the greeting, and I want it to be above my little flap, and then it gives this, it's got your contrast behind here. And then again with the other one, and I'm going to pop that under there, and again I just want it to go a little bit outside. And then my final new product that I'm using on this card is called Blooming Pearls, and these are there's some lovely pearls. We've got pink, we've got blue, we've got a green, and then gold. That's the one I've chosen to use, and I'm just going to pop it next to, oh look, it's flipped over, come on, there we go. And I'm just going to pop it next to that sort of decorative piece, okay, like that. And it just, I don't know, it fills a gap, but it also, I think it just finishes it off like that. So there we are, my fun fold card using new products from the mini that's about to be released. I also did a version using copper clay, which is one of the other colors, new in colors. Everything is exactly as this one, as the blue one, the boho blue one, except I use copper clay, and I just heat embossed my envelope as well. Well, I do hope that you've enjoyed this fun fold. I've certainly enjoyed sharing it with you. If you have enjoyed it, give me a thumbs up. If you don't already subscribe, perhaps you'll go ahead and do that as well. And if you've any comments, then I'd love to read them. Any questions, just put them down below and I'll do my best to answer them for you. Well, thank you for spending some time with me today. I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Bye bye for now.